Good morning. Hand today is going to be Queen 3 clubs. We are early position. We fold. And the cutoff raises. Button calls. And both blinds fold. We have 105 hands on villain 5. Villain 5 is playing 28-14. Looks like he'll probably have a pretty wide range here. We look at his stats. And we see something interesting. You got 8% early position, 25% mid position, 0 in cutoff, 58 in the button, 33 small blind, 80 big blind. So he's going to have a pretty decent sized range. We notice that he doesn't limp first in, but he has called. So he's been faced with possibility of calling in the big blind 8 different times. He folded. He had a total of 12 hands in the cutoff that he has not played, and he's only had opportunity to raise first in 4 times, opportunity to limp first in 4 times. I guess we're different. So you can raise, you can limp, or you can call. So why is the call 2-bet 0 out of 8? So, yeah, out of a 12 hands, I don't know where that... Oh, I guess they're the same. He could have raised or limp first in. Got it. So 8 times he was faced with a raise ahead of him. 4 times he did not. So overall, it's only 103 hands. I think he's just probably had some bad hands. Hasn't allowed him to play, to limp, or to raise. So the question is, what do we do? How do we build it? His raise first in, buttons 4 out of 5. This looks like he's probably stealing, or again, 4 out of 5 times, and he's played a total of 7. Maybe though he's just not getting hands in the cutoff, but he was getting hands in the button over these 100 hands. I mean, any number of things. It's just going to be hard to kind of set up, like, what's the overall range. So this is, about 20%. It's probably a decent standard. We could add more if we do all of our Broadway, which we probably could. We just don't know how wide his range is at this point. We do have a note on him. This was a guy that played Ace King from the small blind, just limped. He didn't raise. And then, yeah, I think he had an opportunity to take it down at some point in this hand because he had the Ace of Diamond. He could have played aggressively and probably would have picked up the pot. He could have won it too, I think. He is short stacked at a little more than 40, so we have to remember that. So I think we're just going to keep with 20%. This other guy's playing tight, 17-5. We don't really have a whole lot of hands on him either, but just overall at 17-5, we're thinking he's probably calling with a fairly tight range. He's not calling to defend against a steal or a potential steal at all. So you can see his call 2-bet much more likely in early and mid position, and then buttons 2 out of 10 and so forth. So hands like this, they call pocket pair, suited aces, so forth. We don't have any 3-bet range on him. We do see that he's limped to call the raise with 6s. Called 2-bets from blinds with Queen 8-6. I think this might be a little bit different than the blinds. So I don't think we're going to include like the suited gappers. But this is suited aces, pocket pairs, suited Broadway, some offsuit Broadway. I'm going to assume Queens plus Ace King would be a 3-bet here. So that brings us up to 13%, and that's kind of in line with him playing tight. So we've got 2 ranges. Let's head to the flop. Flop is Ace 10-6 with 2 clubs. That would have been nice with our Queen 3 clubs. Villain, c-bets, and basically he's c-betting 100%. So I think he's probably 100% again. Is the sizing going to give us something? Maybe, maybe he would have bet larger with a set or 2 pair, and maybe larger with like ace king. And we can do that. I think those hands you bet larger just to try to, number one, block out, try to charge the flush draw, and number two, I think he's trying to get money in the pot because he is a short stack. So I think he would possibly bet larger. I think most players would probably bet larger. This just looks like I'm always going to bet a small amount unless I have something really good, and then I'll bet large. And that could be his play. Button calls. So we don't know how aggressive he's going to be. We do know we have some fold c-bet. In positions 50%, out of position 71%. So he's calling with at least some hands here. At least top pair. The question is, would we see a raise with 2 pair sets? Yeah, I do think so. I'm going to exclude the sets because I do think most players are going to 3-bet here or raise. I think 2 pairs is a little different. I don't think as many people are willing to raise it at this point in the hand with 2 pair, but I do think we can. Top pair calls. Flush draw is going to call. Gut shot's probably calling. We're going to give him these middle pairs and probably the pocket pair below the second cards. I don't think we're going to go for the real small pocket pairs. So that's 78.2%. We go to the turn, ace of hearts. So now that really reduces the chance that people have a top pair type hand. Villain bets 4.8. Now he raises up to half pot. I think with the half pot bet, he's demonstrating that he does have a hand of some sort. At this point, this could be the ace. More than likely, the ace is probably what he's betting. And I think that's probably it. I just can't see, since we already excluded like the bigger hands. Like if he had a full house now, so if he had pocket sixes or pocket tens, I don't think he could go up that high. I think if he had those in his range, then we're probably going to have to set a percentage. And sometimes some of the players will check here and look for a check raise. Other times they're going to bet, and they could probably bet this amount. But this kind of looks like a 3 of a kind bet. Maybe it's one of these pocket pair less than the top card. A slightly better thinking player, a player that might not be that great but does have some thinking ability, might realize here that with the ace with 2 aces on the board, it's less likely to see the ace on the river or the ace in their hand. So he may be putting villain on, a club draw here. But now I'm going to say 3 of a kind, and he quite possibly could have, the club. So that's his bet. Button calls again. So definitely, I think calling. His full house, he's calling. 3 of a kind's calling. I think flush draw's calling. I don't really think any of the other hands are calling. So I think we're getting some pretty good reduction of range by the button, but not so much with cutoff. 8 of diamonds hits on the river. Villain bets larger, so he went small, half pot, and now this is probably like 2/3 pot. Not quite all of it, but I think this would be, I think that's those hands, 3 of a kind, full house, and villain's probably looking at the same types of hands. I think flush is missed. The question is, would he do it with all of his 3 of a kind? Would he bet that large with all of his ace X hands? Yeah, probably. I think he would. Would this guy call with Yeah, probably call. I don't see raises, so I think we're just gonna have to leave all of them in. If he comes in with a raise, I think it's full house at this point. Yep, I think at this, we're gonna narrow this down. We're gonna eliminate all of these weak ace X hands. I'm not even sure if we can do ace queen, but give the full house here. Could have the ace queen. I'm not sure if ace queen raises like that because I think they're going to be scared of the ace king. So I think we've got the full house for him. And of course he's going to call. So that kind of goes back to, yeah, he's going to call with full house. And my guess, since he plays all short, he could have these low aces. I don't think he should be playing them. I think at this point, I'm not even sure if he should play ace jack or ace queen. It's a tough one to fold. But I think that's it when he makes the call. Those are the only hands that I could see calling. Now, again, maybe he has the weaker kicker. So let's see. He's got the ace king, so he does. What happened with it? We should have that. Oh, we excluded it because we thought he'd bet it larger. Okay. Yep. Okay. We excluded ace king's not in range, and I was gonna say we should. It was in there. No, with the bet sizing, we thought ace king would have been a slightly larger bet, with top pair, top kicker. All right, so we have that in his range. This guy's probably, I'm sure, won. Yep, trips. There it is. Now we didn't have the sixes. We assumed he would have raised the set in this spot, and he didn't. And we talked about that. We left in the two pair as like sometimes he'd raise, sometimes he'd call, but the sets we actually said he would raise. So let's get notes on here. Actually, before we do the notes, let's get this set up in GTO. All right, so we're gonna get this set up. We're gonna use the ranges here. Whoops, get off of that. We don't know how good these ranges are. That's the catch. All right, and our board was ace of diamonds, 10-6. Done. We're gonna go back to the flop. So we've got a pot of 6.5, effective stacks of 71 or 41. We'll make that easier. All right. Guess we'll leave that. Custom settings for the flop. $25%. That'll be 25%. Then we're gonna lead 50%. Then we're going to lead 66%. And we're gonna check the tree. Whoops. There it is. Okay. So if he bets, calls, bets, call, bet. I said about 11. Now, so that could be about 75%. Let's see that. That's much better. Okay, so we're going to accept these changes. What we're going to do is run the solver and be back. All right, solver's done. Based on the ranges, Villain's going to be betting 58.5%. I think that's probably true. He's actually, my guess is betting about 100% here. But we're going to do what GTO suggests. So just go ahead. He bets small. Actually, we should do that. We're going to take out the check and let's run this again. Because my read is that he's going to be a C bet 100% here. So we're going to run the solver and be back. All right, not too long. So villain's betting 100%. We have calls here. Just what I thought. This guy should be raising. That's kind of what I thought. He's going to be raising the set. And then I thought maybe he's going to be raising some of his two pairs. I said 50-50 chance. That seems to be, I mean, I think I would have raised trips. I think if we would have tried to balance that raise, we would have found that, you know, having in all of our flush draws would need more value. So some of our flush draws will have to be checks. Some of them will have to be checks. Some of them will have to be bets or raises. So we do have some like ace queen of clubs could be a raise. King jack of clubs could be a raise, you know, where you have the flush draw with gut shot, backdoor gut shot, or top pair flush draw. So so he did not play with, according to GTO. Okay. So let's say he calls, which he did. And then villain's going to bet, and he has ace king of clubs, which is kind of interesting because he blocks the flush draw. So if he's blocking the flush draw, the nut flush draw, you have to start thinking that villain's going to have a pretty decent hand. So he bets, which, you know, ace king's in his betting range, so that was okay. And then villain calls, and he's calling with like three of a kind. You can see his range is starting to get heavy with the three of a kind. He's calling with flush draws. Really not going to be raising here. Once he called the flop, he's going to be calling the turn. And then you have villain betting again. And definitely ace king is showing up as a bet. These high aces. So that's kind of what I would imagine. You know, the weaker kicker's probably not betting. He bets. All right, so then you have a raise. Full house, you expect the raises. Pocket eights, you expected the raise. So I mean, at least the raise, you kind of expected it at this point. You still had aces, like ace-6 here. You had the full house, but you didn't raise it at this point. And I think that's kind of interesting. So I guess if you don't raise the flop, you're not doing the turn, you're going to withhold the raise until the river, maybe. I thought that's kind of odd. So, all right, so we ran this. His bets kind of make sense. I'm not a fan of 100% C bet here. I think once he raises here, it's going to be hard to fold like the ace king, ace queen. So I'm not going to criticize him. I think from an exploitative view, you could fold that. But just from a GTO, you're going to have to call because villain should have a couple bluffs in his range. And you are short stacked. You've invested enough money here. So you can see that, you know, he raises it. He only has to call 20 more. So you've got 19 plus, so we're at 33.7 right now. And then we're going to add 34. So 77, we'll say 78. 78, it's 20 more to go into the pot to win 78. So it's almost 4-1. like I say, you only need 23% equity to make this call, which is what he did. So yeah, it's like if he's folding 25% of the time, or if he's bluffing 25% of the time, you have that. Also, if villain could be betting with like an ace queen, you beat that with the ace king. So yeah, I'm not gonna necessarily fault him, but again, if you're playing exploitative at a 10-NL game, almost always once this happens, you're looking at like a full house, especially if you have the ace king, because you kind of expect ace king would 3-bet you pre-flop. So if you exclude that from his range, then you're looking at full house. That's what you're looking at, because I don't think ace queen is going to raise here. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, you can look tomorrow for another.